If you'd like to support our efforts, go to patreon.com/Omaha and consider becoming a patron for a few dollars a month.
Welcome to the North Omaha History Podcast with noted author and historian Adam Fletcher Sasse. Each week, Adam takes you on a guided tour through Omaha's dynamic past.
This is a podcast that's going to be timely on 16th Street because the mayor of Omaha currently is talking about either tunneling under the Doubletree or tearing it down to open 16th Street back up from downtown north. But we're going to talk about the history of North 16th Street with long, windy roadways leading from North 16th Street to their country estates. Many of Omaha's founding fathers believed they had the best locations in the city. Their exclusivity gave way to stout, proud, and elaborate apartment buildings over the next half century. But before it was developed, it was a country road that led to the old town of Saratoga. Adam, tell us more about 16th Street.
So picture, if you will, the little town of Omaha City. It's 1856. It sits right on the Missouri River. There's a ferry that comes across the river a couple times a day called the Lone Tree Ferry, and all these pioneers filing into the town. In the meantime, about 5 or 6 miles north of Omaha, there's another little town that gets started. It's called Saratoga. It's right on the Saratoga bend of the Missouri River, and it's getting developed with the idea that it's going to have a red-hot port called Sulphur Springs, and that folks are just going to love being there. And then, of course, further north, there's another little town. It's about 4 or 5 miles north of Saratoga. It's called Florence. So you have these little towns that are just kind of clumped along the river. Even north of Florence, there was another one called Rockport. And, of course, south of Omaha City, there was another little town called Bellevue. So we needed a road that went between these towns. Now, I don't know what went between Omaha City and Bellevue, but I can surely tell you that from Omaha City up to Saratoga, there was a fine little dirt road. That dirt road went right along the top of the ridge, and it had space for lots on the east side and a lot of space on the west side. So what the city founders ended up doing was taking that dirt road, and they codified it, right? They made it official. Omaha Street started at the Missouri River, and they were numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to number 16. And 16th Street was born out of necessity. It was the road from Omaha to Saratoga. Eventually, it went further north up into what we call the Sherman neighborhood today, and now dead ends at the Missouri River on the north side. And then, of course, it heads south as well. But back then, it was definitely a major road. So, North 16th turned out to be a pretty important road. Along that strip, you had these lots. Originally they were sections of land that were bought by the wealthy investors of Omaha and different folks who came to Omaha when it first started in 1856 and 54. And what these folks did was ended up building their mansions right along the cliff. And they had a lot of wealthy people had a lot of land right along 16th Street. Because it was so popular. There were a lot of different events that happened along 16th because of that, and a lot of important things ended up coming around.
Now that what I call the 16th Street bluff, that big bluff along 16th Street in North Omaha, maybe north of, I don't know what, Sorensen Parkway goes through there
right
now. I understand at one time the Missouri River ran along that bluff, and so 16th Street up in North Omaha was right along the Missouri River before it changed course.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, that's to put it in the context that the entire Missouri River Valley has a river bottom, and that river bottom goes from the west side in Nebraska along 16th Street, like you're calling out, to all the way over to the east side in Council Bluffs, and all up and down Iowa, what we call the Les Hills. So that whole area was at one point the meandering ground for the Missouri River. We saw its behavior just a couple of years ago with the gigantic floods of 2011 that wiped out I-29 and a couple other fixtures down there, because basically that whole entire area belongs to the Missouri River. Well, back then it was even more so. And what we have record of was the river changing course over and over again during time. It's really what led to the death of Saratoga as a formal town. It's one of the elements that factored into it. 1857, the river changed course. Saratoga relied on the Missouri River for its existence, for its connection to the shipping industry and the movement of humans up and down the river with the new steamboats that were coming in. And when the river changed course and left the cliffside right there at Saratoga, which we now know is right around Locust Street and 16th, actually 14th, a person could drive right there and see where the riverbed used to be. Mm-hmm. And when it shifted course, it left Sulphur Springs and the whole port area for Saratoga high and dry. It was inaccessible to the riverboats, and so Saratoga wasn't as valuable to the investors as it originally looked like it would be. So, yeah, the river definitely factored into the life of North 16th. You know, the other huge part that did, though, were those important people that lived up and down 16th Street. We had people like Alvin Saunders, who was one of the early territorial governors. He ended up building a mansion at about 16th and Grant Street. But another guy named J.J. Brown, he built a mansion. He was a big industrialist and businessman in the Wild West, which Omaha was part of at that point in those early years. He had a mansion along 16th that ended up becoming the first or the second Wise Hospital, which was a Jewish hospital in Omaha. And lots of other folks lived up and down the street. It also, 16th Street's relevance in those early years led to the first execution in Nebraska happening right off 16th.
Oh, really? Where was that at?
Well, so Saratoga, it was this booming little burg, but it was kind of formally shut down by the 1860s. In June 1863, there was a kid, earlier in the year, there was a kid who found a body floating in the river down at the bottom of the hill. And it was floating in the rivers and some reeds. And the kid went and told, the right people. And eventually it came out that the guy's body who was found, he was a shipper. And this shipper worked with a former Kansas Territory legislator whose name was Cyrus Tater. And maybe we'll have a podcast about this later on. But long story short is that Tater was convicted of murdering his business partner and leaving his body down there. Now, they connected the murder to Tater because they found his horse and wagon right about 16th and Locust. And they found this horse and wagon just kind of sitting there. And then later on, they found Tater himself out in western Nebraska in Columbus on his way out of town, as it were. And they brought Tater back to Omaha to stand trial. He was found guilty of murdering his business partner, and they built a gallows right where they found the horse and wagon by 16th and Locust. And from those gallows hung Cyrus Tater in June of 1863 as the first official execution in the state of Nebraska, in the territory of Nebraska at that point.
Frontier justice.
Exactly. And 16th relevance only built from there.
Now, I understand that the name was changed to Sherman Avenue.
So a famous Civil War general was William Tecumseh Sherman. And in 1879, the city of Omaha changed the name of 16th to Sherman Avenue in his honor. Sherman, he became kind of a folk hero, but when he didn't run for president, like Grant did, and when he didn't do other things like folks did, like folks wanted him to, they still wanted to honor him. And so this honor of having this major street in Omaha named after him was one of the things that was bestowed on him. There's schools and other things named after him in Omaha and elsewhere. But for a long time, 16th was called Sherman Avenue pretty exclusively.
Well, Adam, thanks. And if you'd like to support our efforts, you can go to patreon.com/Omaha and consider becoming a patron for a few dollars a month. And we'll have another 16th Street podcast coming up as well. But you can check out Adam's great selection of books on Amazon, and his blog is northomahahistory.com. Adam, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good one, Steve.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to the North Omaha History Podcast with noted author and historian Adam Fletcher Sasse. Join us next week as Adam takes you on another guided tour through Omaha's dynamic past.